I just have a question, which is, how does Magnus die?
You know, I kind of envisioned him from the beginning as like a guy who was looking for a cause worth dying for. And I always kind of envisioned this like big blaze of glory moment. And then somewhere along the lines, like I realized that he had found something worth living for. And the relationship between Taco and Merle and all of his friends and stuff and what he was doing started to trump that. Became more important. I actually think he dies peacefully of old age, calmly, and holding in his hand his wife's wedding ring. And that's how Magnus dies.
You are surrounded by friends as things get hazier and hazier in a way that you're kind of familiar with. It's okay, bud. It's okay. And then, in a flash, the world is clear, and there's Kravitz. He reaches out his hand and takes yours, and he helps you to your feet, and he says, "My friend, I think this one's going to take."
Well,
and then
let's hope so for your sake. I don't want you getting in trouble with the boss.
And then we see the two of you in the astral plane, and you're standing on these still waters, and below the surface you see millions of these swirling lights stretching downward into infinity. And in front of you, there's a small island. And on that island is a wooden cottage that has clearly been crafted with expert hands. There are windows of cut glass that are half open, letting in the gentle breeze that's blowing over these waters. And there's a workbench out in the yard. And Kravitz turns to you as you're standing on the water, and he says, You can't stay here forever. Eventually, you're going to need to join the rest of the souls here, but I'll make sure you have as much time as you need.
Thank you.
And he walks away, and the door to the cottage opens, and two dogs come bounding out.
Hey, buddy.
And then there's Julia. And she's carrying a ladder and a hammer, and she's got some nails that she's holding in her mouth, and sets her tools down on the workbench, and she goes to set up the ladder on the side of the cottage. And then she stops, and she turns, and she sees you, Magnus. What do you do?
I just stare at her. Not in the dumbfounded way, not in I can't believe it way, but just I can't not look at her.
She sets her tools down, and she smiles, and she says, "You lived so much longer than I thought you were going to."
I know. I'm sorry I made you wait.
I think she starts running towards you, and you start running towards her, and you embrace.
I tried to make you proud.
Well, I couldn't exactly see what you were doing out there, but I've heard stories, and I'm sure you did. And she pulls away from you, and you're both still pretty tearful, and she motions towards the cottage, and she says, "What do you think?"
Did you make this?
Yeah, no, the dogs made it.
I love the joints. Really good craftsmanship. This is amazing. Is that cedar? That's good. Smells wonderful.
She says, "I've envisioned this moment for a long time, Magnus, and I was so hoping you would compliment the joints." And she smiles and says, "I really have thought about this moment for a long time, and I don't want to rush it. I want to savor every second of this, and we got all kinds of time. So why don't you come inside and tell me everything, okay?" And she walks back towards the house and opens the door, and she whistles, and And the two dogs go bounding back inside, and she turns and smiles at you, and she steps into the cottage.
Well, it all started when I met the most beautiful elf, the bravest cleric he ever met. Except, well, he said he was a cleric. We can never be sure.
And we see you one last time as Magnus rushes in.